So the last time I came up to Addison, my son was playing 6 and under basketball, and we were playing up at Addison High School. But tell us what's going on up that way.
A lot of football talk, obviously, during the fall in Addison, because that's kind of what they're known for, right? But it hits prime season this time of year. They beat their rival, Double Springs, last week, I think, and so a lot of excitement there. But from a work standpoint, I work at Clayton Homes there. Been there for a little bit over 30 years now, and that's where we build houses.
Yeah.
So
It's such a neat area, the Smith Lake area, the Coleman area, and y'all been there for a while, but y'all have had some changes recently. And so tell me what you like about being in that Smith Lake Addison area.
it's to me it's a great place to raise a family.
Yeah.
It's I travel a good bit, so it doesn't bother me to leave my wife there or anything like that. And to me, the lake, I enjoy the lake. Never really grew up on the lake, didn't really get exposed to the lake till probably 15, 20 years ago. But we absolutely love it, love spending time there. We've built several houses there now, and about to build another one. So
you're a small town guy. I mean, you grew up in Hamilton, you work at Addison. I mean, do you like small town living?
I love small town living. Matter of fact, when I first got out of school, I went to work in Birmingham for a pharmaceutical company, and at that time, 280 had not expanded.
Yeah.
So this would have been 1990, 91-ish. And so whether you got in at 10 o'clock, you left at 4 o'clock, there was always traffic, right? I couldn't take that because Tuscaloosa was big for me in the late 80s when we had 18,000 students, right? So, but no, small town for me is kind of where it's at, and that's what I enjoy.
Man, I grew up in Jasper. I mean, you grew up in Hamilton, but I mean, I keep trying to get away, and I've lived in big cities before, but I just love it, man. And there's something about kind of being in a, I don't want to say a big fish in a small pond, but just people know you, and you walk across the street, and people are honking the horn and saying hey, and there's just something about it, man. And so I want to know more from you about what it was like growing up in Hamilton. Obviously I know your brother, and I'm sure that was very interesting growing up with Vess, but tell us about, the moments that kind of shaped you growing up in Hamilton, Alabama.
Well, I'm going to back up a little bit before that. So actually we grew up in a little place called Glen Allen. We had a farm there, and in 1980, our dad got killed in a farming accident. And so we moved to Hamilton when I was in like the 6th grade. And really kind of submerged ourselves into sports, for lack of a better deal. And our mom raised 3 boys, and so we've got an older brother, Ryan, and then you'd mentioned Vance already. So, but we kind of grew up in sports, and that's really kind of what shaped basically everything we did. Small town, you play all 3 sports, and it was sports year round. And to me, that's what I credit any success I've had in life to is sports. And at work, they sit there and get tired of me talking about it, but I kind of relate everything to sports. From team concepts to setting goals to getting better, any of that kind of stuff. To me, it always goes back to sports.
That obviously was a devastating blow to lose your dad. So tell me about how the dynamic in the household shifted after you lost him.
It like I said, our mom stepped up because he basically took care of all the bills and basically everything. And but she really stepped up, and so one of the reasons we moved to Hamilton was I had an aunt and uncle that was there. She was very close to, and some first cousins there, and that's kind of one of the reasons we located to there, because her family was actually from Coleman, Kent, and she grew up and graduated from West Point. And but at the time, I think she was a little closer to my dad's sister, and that's one of the reasons we went to Hamilton. So, but again, I can't say enough about her. The discipline and stuff she raised us with, that truly kind of molded us today. And, from church and going to services there. And, if that door was open, we were there.
Were there some men that stepped up, some coaches that kind of filled that father role for you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you go back, Craig Sanderson, a guy that went with me to Alabama, his dad, James Sanderson, kind of took me under his wing, and Steve Logan is another person. And then Mark Deering was our head football coach. L.C. Fowler was another name that a lot of people will know. And but no, those men definitely took on that role. And again, when you're playing all three sports, you're around them a lot, right? But most definitely, I mean, there was a lot of good people that helped my mom along the way.
Now, my understanding is that Rocky Felker was the guy that kind of discovered you, right? And so tell me about your recruiting process. You know, obviously you end up at Alabama, but walk us through that whole process about how you got there.
It wasn't really a recruitment of me, right? And then it really, by the luck of the draw, was how I got recruited. I mean, as technical as everything is today through YouTube and videos and all that, literally they were coming to watch. I think the guy's name was Desmond Bates that played at Russellville. He's there scouting Desmond for Alabama, and we beat him. I happened to have a good game.
Now, this is what, like 85?
This would have been fall of 85.
85, okay.
So Coach Felker goes back, reports to Coach Perkins at the time, hey, Desmond did this little kid from Hamilton did this. So then we play Haleville, which had Byron Holbrooks, who signed at Alabama with me. And he's there scouting. Byron goes back. Hey, Byron did this. This little kid from Hamilton did this. We happen to have another good game. And then we played Hazelwood, which was Pierre Good, the Good brothers. And again, he's there scouting him. I happen to have another good game. So finally, Coach Perkins, hell, Rocky, don't you think we ought to need to recruit him? and that's literally how my recruitment went.
Yeah.
And it went, I never got a letter, never got anything all the way through the season. So we played, back then it was Colbert County, they had not joined up. So we played them in I guess it would have been the second round of the playoffs. And by that time, there's a couple of different coaches there. And so we lose. We get back on the bus back to the field house that night. And because I wanted to be a baseball player. I mean, I thought that's where my opportunity was playing college baseball. And Coach Deering, who was our head coach, he said, hey, what do you think about playing college football? Coach, I'm not sure. I mean, I weighed at the time I was 6'4", 165. Coach, I don't know about me playing college football. What are you talking about? Well, and he started telling me the games they've been at. And you happen to have a good game, and you had a good game. And so they'd like to talk to you. Okay. And again, I'm leery of it, right? And so it's probably 2 or 3 weeks later. I think Vess answered the phone, actually. And he said, it's Coach Perkins. Well, at the time, there was these 2 DJs in Birmingham that would do these prank calls. So he brings the phone in and, hey, this is Gary. Gary, this is Ray Perkins from the University of Alabama. And we talked for a little bit. I'd like to offer you a scholarship. Been watching film on you, so on and so forth. Okay, all right, sounds good. Because I'm thinking I'm getting pranked.
Right. Like Magic 96.5, I-95.
Whoever it was at the time.
Yeah.
And,
Mark and Brian.
So sure enough, the next morning, I think it was Rocky called our head coach. It's like, Coach Perkins offered Gary a scholarship last night. I'm not sure he took him serious. So then Coach Deering calls me down to his office. He's like, Coach Perkins called you last night? Well, somebody said they were Coach Perkins called me last night. He said, no, that was him. So that's my recruitment to Alabama.
But you got there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was your relationship with Coach Perkins like once you were there?
It was great. He was actually the quarterback's coach. He was the offensive coordinator. So he ran all our meetings. He did everything. And so my deal with him was, because I actually wanted to play college baseball too. And I was like, Coach, I want to be able to play baseball. Well, if you're good enough, you can. He said, but you're not going to go there, miss spring training, miss all winter workouts, and sit on the bench. He said, so if you're playing, you can go. Okay, so that's fine with me. So Sure enough, I get there that fall. We go through the fall. It comes time for baseball. Well, he tells us he's going to Tampa Bay. And so now Coach Curry comes in, and I go through the deal with him about, hey, this was our agreement, I could play baseball. And so, which he honored. And so I got into, played, I guess it was my redshirt freshman year. I had an opportunity to play baseball and pitched in 16 or 17 games, whatever it was. And
Was that Schollenberger?
yeah.
Okay.
Barry
Yeah.
Schollenberger, sure was.
Yeah.
And then, so we start in my sophomore year, I'm out there playing. Well, Coach Curry brings in a guy named Homer Smith as the offensive coordinator. He said, Gary, I need to see you in my office. And he's like, you're here on a football scholarship, right? Yes, sir. Well, if you want to keep that, you'll be in spring training with me. Well, we didn't have the money at the time because baseball scholarships were broken up. And so we didn't have the money for me to get off a football scholarship, so that ended my baseball career. And which worked out great, right? So I can't, looking back,
Yeah.
it worked out for the best.
Obviously, the coaching styles were completely different between Perkins and Curry. So from your standpoint, what were the similarities, if there were some, but what were the differences? I mean, you like both guys, of course.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference was, and I'm going to pull Coach Stallings into this as well, because, here I go to Alabama, here's a guy handpicked by Coach Bryant to succeed him. And I'm thinking, hey, he's going to be here for the long haul, for at least my 4 or 5 years. And then I end up having 3 head coaches and 4 offensive coordinators. But no, relationship with Coach Perkins was great. He was a very hands-on coach. He implemented, all our game plans. Obviously, like I said, I was in, meetings with him every day from a quarterback standpoint, and really got to know what he was thinking, what he thought, and all that stuff. Coach Curry was more of a CEO type.
Business-like, yeah.
Really, really trusted his coordinators, to put in game plans and that kind of stuff. Then he leaves, goes to Kentucky. Well, then in comes Coach Stallings. Well, Coach Stallings puts in offensive game plan, defensive game plan, and special teams game plan. So he's very, very hands-on and very much involved. And so you have those 3 different personalities, right, that you go through. And they're all different. I get asked the question, which one do you like best? Well, I tell people I like Coach Perkins best because he gave me my scholarship. So, but no, all 3 definitely, they were definitely different. But I have a lot of respect for all 3 of them.
I want to go back to 1989. You had obviously a great year. Alabama has a great year. And I want to talk about that season, and the first thing that I want to mention is that Ole Miss game. You're down 21-0. You get in a hole. I'm listening to this on the radio as a 12-year-old.
Right.
From your standpoint, what are you thinking? And then obviously the floodgates open. And
so let's go back the year before, right? So we're at homecoming. Ole Miss is our homecoming game. That's the game we don't complete a pass, and we get beat for homecoming, and everyone's upset and mad and all this stuff. So fast forward a year later,
the brick goes through Coach Curry's.
So fast forward a year later, Jeff Dunn gets hurt, I think, in the Kentucky game when I came in and started playing. I have one start at Vanderbilt in a monsoon up there. Well, the next game we're going to Jackson, because back then Ole Miss's stadium held, I think, maybe 30,000 people, 35,000 people, whatever. So any of their bigger games, they played in Jackson at the time. So we're in Jackson. And, that's kind of looming that, we weren't very successful the year before. And so we've got our game plan in. And again, Craig Sanderson, that I went to high school with, we pretty much started every game with a pass to him. That was Homer's way of kind of getting me comfortable. Mm-hmm. And so he's going to run a simple 10-yard out. Step, drop, throw it. I throw it a little too far outside. He dives, tries to tip it back to himself, tips it straight up. They intercept it, run down, score. I think next series we go 3 and out. They, I think they blocked the punt. Had a short field. They scored a touchdown. They're up 14-0. Next series we go 3 and out. We shank a punt. They got another short field, so yes, they're up. We're 7 minutes into the game, and they're up 21-0. So I go put on my headphones and talking to Coach Smith because he was always in the box, and he's like, Gary, this is a quarterback's dream. Coach, I'm not sure what you're talking about. This is a nightmare to me. And he's like, we're going no huddle. We're going to turn it loose. So what we had in kind of our package in our 2 minute was based on down and distance. I had a list of plays I could call. And so we just went no huddle halfway through the first quarter. And back then, Ole Miss blitzed a lot, and they had a bunch of changes. So what we forced them to do by going no huddle, they couldn't make substitutions. So we made them basically play a base defense for the rest of the game.
And they couldn't adjust.
Yeah. So we scored that first time, and then it just got to rolling. Mm-hmm. And they got on their heels a little bit, and I think John Mangum intercepted a pass. I think we might have blocked the punt. Next thing you know, it's 40-something to 21 at halftime. And we ended up going on to beat them, like I said, 60-20, whatever. So funny story, a few years later, I'm at the Monday morning quarterback club, and Coach Brewer comes to speak at it. And I go up and introduce myself to reception beforehand. And so he starts his talk that night. I want to tell you all a story about a few years ago in Jackson. And he starts telling the story of, hey, year before, we beat them for homecoming. They didn't complete a pass. He said, here we've got a guy coming into our place. It's his second start. Struggled a little bit at Vandy, and he tells the whole story. And he said, we get up 21-0. He said, our fans are going crazy. Our coaches are excited. And he said, one of our guys says, we're fixing to teach the University of Alabama a thing or two about football today. He said, by halftime, our coaches are ready to jump out of the booth. Our fans are gone. And he said, but it was one of those days. And he was right. I mean, everything clicked that day. And again, I'll give Coach Smith credit. It was a quarterback's dream because we threw it, I don't know, it was probably 30 or 40
Yeah,
times.
and that was kind of your coming out party.
It really was.
Yeah.
It was. So, and with that came a lot of confidence, right? Because, I'd been there. That was my fourth year there. Had never played a down until that season. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, just to have that success and, hey, yeah, I do belong here. I can compete at this level. Yeah. And from there on, we went through and, I think had a really, really good season, a fun season. Because we threw it all over the place. Because back then, in the late 80s, you still were predominantly run in the SEC. And Lamond Russell was a tight end. We had Saran Stacy was running back. Kevin Turner was our fullback. Marco Battle, Craig Sanderson, Prince Wembley. So we had a plethora of guys that could catch the ball and run. And it was just a lot of fun. The things we did, the things Coach Smith challenged me to do, because I probably changed either the play or the blocking probably 70-80% of the time. And the way I looked at it here, I'm a 21-year-old kind of trying to match minds with a 40-50-year-old defensive coordinator. And it's either he wins or I win. And that was what I thoroughly enjoyed about that year. So.
Those Legion Field games it was such a big deal. And going back, when I was growing up, we had tickets to every Legion Field game. And back in those days, the Tennessee game was huge. The third Saturday in October. And I really believe that game has lost a little bit of luster across the years. Maybe it was just me being fascinated as a kid, but I think about that 89 game, the 47-30 game. That was a huge game. So from your standpoint, playing in that atmosphere, what was that like for you?
Oh, it was phenomenal. Because I think that year we both came in undefeated. If I remember, I think we were both in the top 10, maybe even something like that. So there was a lot of hype coming into that game, and yeah, we'd had success at Ole Miss, and but now also Tennessee's team was really, really good at the time too, and so yeah, it was a huge game. There was a lot of build-up coming into it, and to go out and have the success we had. Kind of the same thing. We played, and definitely got into kind of what they gave us. and Homer called it playing on a mini field. And really, it's a 3-on-2 from a basketball guy. It's a 3-on-2 fast break. That's all it is. So they had their linebackers. So it was we had our guys lined up, and that's simply all you did was you read that, and you distribute the ball to whoever's there because they can't cover them all. Because basically we were an early version of what I call this spread and the stuff they're doing today. Because our goal was to get 5 guys out in the pattern every time, and from that standpoint, Homer was, and we ultimately were kind of ahead of our time in getting those 5 guys out. Because that's a lot of what you see today, is people are getting 5 guys out in a route. So it's really hard to double cover people when you're getting 5 guys out in a route with 5 guys that can catch and get yards after the catch. And that's what made that team special. So.
A few weeks ago, I had Thomas Rayham sitting in that seat right there, and you talking about a character and a big personality guy. I love that guy.
Absolutely.
But obviously the Penn State win, I mean, you're already smiling, but I mean, like that, it was just incredible, and so from your standpoint, what was, obviously it's a big deal to go in that kind of environment and win the way you did, but what do you remember most from that game?
Was kind of the ending of it. Because basically they went down the field. Once they got the ball, they went down the field running the ball. I mean, it wasn't like they were throwing it. They were running it. I mean, gashing us, running it. We were tired and playing prevent and trying to stop it. And, if it hadn't been for them bobbling and their holder thinking he could get it down still. Because I think they kicked the field goal on 3rd down. So they would still have it down. If anything went wrong, he could get up and throw it out. And they still had another down because they still had plenty of time. But yet he thought he could get it down, and Thomas gets in and blocks it and kind of wedged his way through. And, and then the best play to me that I ever had was what we call the victory sneak. Was taking the game and taking the knee and running the clock out. And that's something we were able to do there that day. So, but yeah, that was definitely a fun day.
Was that as tough of an environment as playing at an SEC school? I mean, going into state college, was that as tough of an away environment?
Absolutely, and it's hard to get there. I mean, because like you're going to bus. I want to say we bus like an hour or 2 to get there.
Do you fly into Pittsburgh or Philadelphia? Do you remember?
I don't remember where I just knew it was a long bus ride to get
You weren't worried about that.
But no, it was. But the fans were great. After the game, I actually had a gentleman come up and handed me his Penn State hat after the game, and said you deserve this. Y'all beat us today. And I thought that was kind of a cool thing to do. And again, because my mom traveled every game. And she just went on and on because she always wore a big button. My son's number 14. And just about people taking her in at different places she went to. And she bragged about Penn State's fans were some of the best.
Yeah.
As far as I invited her to tailgate, feed them, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
did you ever make friends with any of the opposing players that you played against?
Some of them, probably Stan White.
Yeah.
Got to know Stan a little bit and played some golf with him and that kind of stuff. But not a lot of them.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
Now you'd kind of jab each other, during the game and some of that kind of stuff, but not too many others.
What a perfect segue into my next question. Obviously, and we did a thing a while back about like top 5 most devastating Alabama losses, and man, that 89 game, that was a tough one. I mean, you're going into the game undefeated, first time to ever play in Auburn. Is that one you think about a lot?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you go back, I think we'd got as high as number 2 or number 3 at the time, and we were 10-0, and again, we'd been on kind of a roll, and we were scoring, and things felt good going into it. Now Auburn was good. I mean, I think they only had maybe one SEC loss as well that year going into the game, but it was. I mean, it took to me going back and looking at that game, because most of the time in your walk around, because you're hour and a half, 2 hours before kickoff. You may have your parents in the stands and the sororities and fraternities are in the stands, but other than that, there's not a lot of people in the stands. So that day at the walk around, it was packed, which again is a unique deal just to start with. But the crowds that were there, I mean, it was a huge day. I think that Auburn had looked forward to, obviously, was getting us there. And, you go back to that first quarter, and we're inside the red zone, I think, 3 times. And I think we came away with 6 points, which, looking back on it, was really probably the ball game. That if we come away with any more points, than 6, that we stood a good chance to win that ball game that day.
Okay, so do you feel like Alabama plays tight down at Auburn?
I do to a degree. I think their fans are phenomenal. I'll give them that, because that's one of the loudest places I've ever played. That includes Death Valley at LSU. The Superdome's loud. But I'll say for that day in Auburn, that was the loudest place I've ever been. And yet it stresses you out a little bit from the fact it's harder to communicate. You'll see us get procedure penalties and all kind of stuff, and then now you're putting yourself behind the chains to a degree. But yeah, there's things you've got to do when you go there. You go to a Tennessee that's loud. But I would say Auburn's one of the harder places to play.
How do you drown out the noise when you've been in that environment? I'm sure that was a very hostile, adverse moment for you. So how do you lock in to what you've got to do and just, drown all this other stuff out?
Well, the hardest thing you do is the count, right? And so we would simply go silent count. And we use hand signals for the receivers, changing plays and that kind of stuff. So we prepared for it. And that wasn't as big a deal for us because we made preparations for it. But you go into that atmosphere where you're trying to have signals and calls, and if you're going to do it verbally, it can be a daunting task to try to go into a place like that and do that. But we kind of overcame that, like I said, with silent counts and hand signals.
Yeah. Well, and even after the loss, you go play the Sugar Bowl, you play Miami, and there's still an opportunity to, win the national championship. So what was your mindset after that game? That, hey, we've still got an opportunity here.
Absolutely. We going into that, because up until that point, I think Miami had kind of steamrolled everybody they had played, and I think it was averaging giving up less than 10 points a game. Something like that back then.
Or something like that.
Something crazy. But I think the way we went at it, it was just somebody else on our schedule, and it was another challenge to go at it. And you looking back on guys on that team, on that defense, they ended up playing in the NFL. They were very
Jesse Armstead,
very
Russell Maryland. Yeah. Was there jawing? Because when I talk to the '92 guys, they all talk about they were running their mouth down on Bourbon Street and all this kind of stuff.
The whole time.
Was that going on in '89
absolutely.
too? And then my other question about that is, did '89 relate to '92? I hadn't thought about this until I started preparing questions for this, because you had Lamar Thomas, that was a freshman that year, that was a senior in '92. Yeah, again, Jesse Armstead, he's a freshman in '89. Do you think that impacted the way Miami approached '92 at some level?
I think very well could have been. I'll say from our standpoint, we had some freshmen on that team that played on that '92 team as well. But we actually competed with them. We stayed with them. I think we scored. I forget what we scored. 20. I think we almost doubled or tripled.
Yeah, it was 33-25.
Yeah, what the final was compared to what they were averaging giving up.
Yeah.
And so I think, a few years later, hey, we can play with those guys. They're not that much better. And again, you look at the team we had in '92, how many of those guys defensively went and played in the NFL? There was a ton of guys off that defense that played in the NFL as well. But no, there was constant jaw jacking in both seasons. So.
Y'all are 10-0, and then you finish the season 10-2, and then Coach Curry leaves. You had already experienced Perkins leaving, and to me, the Perkins move was more shocking than Coach Curry leaving at the time. To me, the Perkins thing just kind of came out of nowhere. Maybe the Curry thing came out of nowhere for you, but what's your mentality at that point, how are you navigating those coaching changes, and especially when it's kind of unexpected like that?
It was hard, I'll say that. I mean, looking back, because what you're coming into is now, well, is this guy going to run the kind of offense that you're accustomed to, or are you going to have to prove yourself again and really start all over? And that's basically what you end up doing, is starting all over. Because we go from 89, Coach Smith, that we're trying to score 30-something points a game, to our offensive team goal in 1990 was to score 17 points a game. That was our goal. We led the conference in scoring in 89 with 30-something points a game. And now our goal is to score 17 in 1990.
And you're pitching it around in 89, and now this is a different philosophy. So from your standpoint, what's your mentality about that?
It was totally different. We go into it, we're in, we had a fall scrimmage in the stadium, and so it was, I guess, former players, probably the Red Elephant Club or whoever gets invited to those scrimmages back then, and Coach Bill Oliver was the defensive coordinator. And so we were, and I remember this like it was yesterday, so we go right hash, tight end into the boundary. We're going to run a blunt play back to the open field of Saran. So Coach Oliver is going to let the sideline be his extra defender. He takes his strong safety, puts him to the field. So there's a person there that's unblocked. So I audibled. Did an inside sweep to Saran so the sideline doesn't come into effect. Well, there's not a person there. So he picks up 7-8 yards. Coach Stallings stops practice. Chews me out in front of everybody about the defense will not dictate what we do, we dictate what they do. Now this is on the heels of 1989, where I changed 70 or 80% of the plays based on what the defense was doing. So I found out pretty quick there was a new sheriff in town.
Right. Well, you also found out pretty quick, in the very first game, again, going back to Favre, now you got to face Favre again at Legion Field, very, very first game of the Stallings era, and he goes off. So from your standpoint, obviously he became the Brett Favre that we know now later. But when you're going up against a guy like that, is it like two egos going at each other? What's your mentality with respect to the way you view the other quarterback?
Not really. Obviously you know who he was. Everybody knew what his strong arm he had. But that summer, he had actually had a car wreck and wasn't expected to play against us that day. He didn't start the game that day against us. So we're up 20, maybe 21-3, maybe, something like that, at halftime. Everything we've done's worked. They've done nothing. They maybe had less than 50 yards total offense. We go in, don't really make any adjustments offensively or defensively, because again, we're up 21-3, I think is what it was. They come out at halftime. Number 4 starts warming up. He started the second half, and he's throwing it everywhere. And it's just, and they got on the roll, they got the momentum, and they ended up beating us. I think it was 27-24 was what they beat us that day. And but it was, he was a phenomenal player. And but again, with the accuracy he had, and even not expecting to play, I wasn't really supposed to play, I guess. But what a competitor, though.
And this, I want to take a little sidebar here for a moment. This was not on my question list, but out of all the opposing quarterbacks that have played against Alabama, this may be a tough question for you, but it's an easy one for me. Who is the most impressive person that you've watched play Alabama? For me, it was Johnny Manziel in 2012. I was at that game, and I just remember thinking, this is one of the greatest performances I've ever witnessed. And it seemed like in the Saban era, we would, Bama would lose in just dramatic fashion to, Cam Newton or Manziel or Deshaun Watson, people like that. But from your standpoint, was Favre the best you've ever seen, or who do you think is the best you've ever seen?
I would say Favre. I would say Peyton Manning was really good at Tennessee. I guess it was his senior year of throwing the ball around and finding and reading what we were trying to do to him from a defensive standpoint. But no, I mean, I think you look at any of the younger guys. Well, it's those running guys. I mean, it's what gave us fits this past Saturday, right? I mean, the guys that can throw it as well as run it, because you simply don't account for the quarterback as a runner, which makes it ultra hard. But no, Johnny Manziel that day in Tuscaloosa, he was a problem.
He was a problem. I said this may be the greatest performance I've ever seen. When you look back to that 1990 season, I mean, you end up 7-5. You go to the Fiesta Bowl. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it was a decent year. But really, when you look at it, it really could have been a great year, because I feel like Bama really just laid an egg against Louisville. So let's wipe that game out. Boom. Let's get that out of the way. Let's look at those first three games. I mean, we talked about Southern Miss, but I mean, if you get that one and then you beat Florida and then beat Georgia, 1990 is a totally different season. I know we can do, what ifs all day long, but I mean, that could have been a very, very successful season.
Well, I'm going to say, look back. So we had 10 guys returning on offense that year. We had lost John Mangum, Keith McCants, Willie White. We'd lost several guys defensively. So we're coming in thinking, hey, we're going to need to outscore people. And I'll say, me personally, I didn't play well those first three games. Turnovers and just, we got, I think it was Saran got hurt against Southern Miss the first game. Craig Sanderson got hurt the second game against Florida. And then Prince got hurt in the third game against Georgia. So now our starting running back and two starting wideouts are out. We move Lamont Russell from tight end to wideout. And we struggled from that standpoint through some injuries and some of that stuff. But again, our defense carried that team that year. And you go back and look at kind of some of the scores, and that was the 9-6 game at Tennessee that year, which was
the kick too.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, what a fun game to play in. But I love going on the road and going playing at other places, and seeing them leave. We played in Baton Rouge our junior year, and again, that's a loud place to play. Saran Stacy had a phenomenal day that day, and again, we left there with their fans gone, and it was quiet. And to me, there's nothing more satisfying as an opposing team coming in if you can quiet that crowd and get them to empty the stands a little early.
Well, I mean, every game was close.
Absolutely.
Except for the Louisville game, every game was close. And the Penn State game is the one that Bama y'all just couldn't get anything going offensively. That was kind of a tough game. And so, do you feel like that was a revenge game for them about what happened in 80?
Oh, very well could have been. But now I'll say we probably helped them some with the things we did.
Yeah.
From an offensive standpoint. But no, again, in any of those games that year, I mean, like we're close at Georgia. We're close to.
And that's Spurrier's first year too.
Spurrier's first year. I mean, I think we turned the ball over on the goal line. They had a deep pass coming out of their own end zone, and went for 90-something yards.
Yeah.
So just some big plays. I mean, coaches talk about big plays, those 3 to 5 big plays in a game, and unfortunately, those didn't go our way in those first 3 games.
Yeah. All right. So what happened in the Fiesta Bowl?
We made Browning Nagel a first-round draft pick that day. I mean, it was nothing more than that. I think they scored, 30 or 40 points on us, I think is what it was. And we're out there worried about everything but football, I'll say that. And it showed. I mean, it truly showed. And we kind of went into it, this is Coach Stallings' first bowl game in ever how many years he'd been out of college, and really talked about it being a reward for, kind of how we came back during the season and earned the right, because, I mean, back then every team didn't go to a bowl game. I mean, you got so many bowl games today. I mean, so it was still a big deal to make it to a bowl game. And it probably wasn't the best approach we took to it, and it showed up on the scoreboard that day.
But y'all were hot. I mean, like for a 7-4 team to get to the Fiesta Bowl at that time, that was a big deal.
It was. I mean, it was. But again, I mean, there was no national championship implications like we'd played in the year before, and like I said, our minds were probably a little bit further away on other things.
And that's the thing too. I mean, like, you know, from a bowl standpoint, because you can either be in it and want to win, or you can just not be in it at all. I mean, I think back to, you know, the Utah game that Bama had in 20. I'm losing my mind, but you know, that game didn't seem like Bama cared a whole lot about playing Utah, and then the Oklahoma game in 2013 down in the Superdome. You know, so is that a thing that you can get there and just,
it's real?
Yeah,
and I think the approach. I think that was a learning experience for Coach Stallings as well, because I think he changed his approach from there on, and obviously was very successful in bowl games from there on. So
yeah, 2008 was the Utah game. It was after losing to Florida in the SEC championship game.
To me, one of the classics was what was it, Florida State, when they played Georgia. You know, and just got steamrolled, because again, I think they had a bunch of guys sit out, didn't want to play, didn't care, and I think that beat, what was it, 60-something to almost like we did that day against Louisville.
So who are some of the guys that you were really good friends with on the team? Who are some of your best friends on the Alabama football team during those years?
I mean, obviously, Craig, like I said, Craig Sanderson, grew up with him. You had Kevin Turner, Roger Schultz, obviously, who was our center, and Joe DeMose, I mean, David Lenore, a bunch of those guys. We got a little group text, you know, that we send back and forth during ball games or during the week and that kind of stuff. So
tell me a little bit more about that. I'm interested.
It's interesting.
Was it interesting this week?
It was.
Yeah.
But from the standpoint of, hey, what about this or what about that? You think we're going to do this? There's some strategy that people goes back and forth with, or what do you think about this guy? What about that play? You know, and some of that kind of stuff goes with it.
So it's in real time. I mean,
oh, absolutely. Yeah. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. Tell me about KT, man. I want to know more about him.
Phenomenal guy. One of those that would do anything for you. Grew up an Alabama fan, loved Alabama football. I mean, it was his dream to play for the University of Alabama. And I mean, what a tragedy that he was taken, you know, so soon in life. And but you're talking about a fighter, you know, because his mentality was somebody's going to be the first person to beat it. Why not me?
Yeah. And
he fought it, I think, to the bitter end of trying different experimental things. And again, that was always his mindset. No matter if it was going up against a bigger guy, no matter if it was whatever the challenge was, KT was one there to meet it.
Yeah.
And but yeah, what a phenomenal person. You know, raised some great kids. You know, Nolan that played at Clemson, Cole still playing at Clemson now. Played this past weekend. So, but yeah. Great person, great, like I said, great kid.
He just seems like a guy that you'd want beside you in a street fight.
100%. 100%. And again, you can call him anytime, you could call him anytime, ask him anything, and he's that guy that would be there. So.
All right, now we're to the program. I jumped the gun a little bit here, and this is the Auburn game program in 1990, December 1st, 1990 at Legion Field. First of all, right, is that Holbrooks number 79 right there?
Yes, it is.
Comment on that mustache, please. I mean, we're gonna show a shot.
He had some stash there. Yeah. It was serious.
Yeah. When you look at that, I mean,
haven't seen that in a long time.
Right. So tell us what's going on here, because there's a lot going on. So just
it was
what are some emotions you're feeling.
Well, there was some of them that was trying to look a little too serious to me in this. Couple of them sucking their gut in that otherwise wouldn't have been. But what a crew. I mean, you sit there and look at some of these guys, it's kind of what they've done. And I mean, like you take Lorenzo Ward, you know, who's a defensive coordinator. You know, at South Carolina, I guess was his most recent stop. I'm not even sure where he's at right now, but yeah, Roger Schultz. I mean, obviously everybody knows Roger and kind of some of his antics, and all the way to The Biggest Loser, right, when he got on that. So, but no, great group of guys. Absolutely a great group of guys. You know, and even some of those guys aren't with us today.
Yeah.
So, but no, well, I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
What would you say to number 14 if you could say something to him now?
I would say just because I've enjoyed myself. I've enjoyed my life. You know, I never took myself too serious in football. I mean, to me, it was a game, and that's kind of where I struggled when I signed on as a free agent to the Houston Oilers, and I wasn't ready for the business side of the NFL. I mean, obviously Warren Moon was their starting quarterback at the time, NFL Man of the Year, the whole 9 yards. They had Cody Carlson was his backup. And they told us, said, listen, hey, it's going to be between you and Reggie Slack for the third string.
Here we
spot.
go again.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, bring it on, let's go. Yeah. And they ended up bringing in a guy named Tom Mickey, who had played in Canada behind Cody Carlson. I think it was Baylor.
Now, who was the head coach of the Oilers back then?
That was Jack Pardee.
Okay, Pardee.
And so we get out there and we go through camp, and I'm still in contact with Coach Perkins, right? Because he's still the head coach at Tampa. And, so we would talk on and off, and I'm like, all right, Coach, you know, they brought us in, they told us this, and they ended up bringing in a third guy. And he's like, well, who's getting the third string reps? I said, well, this Tom Mickey guy's in from Canada. He said, okay. See how it goes through camp. And so sure enough, me and Reggie get a few reps, but Tom got most of the third string reps. And he's like, listen, that's going to be their third string guy if he's the one getting the reps. If you need the money, stay on. And you'll run the scout team, get beat up a little bit if you need the money. You know, stay on and do it. I said, okay. So sure enough, I call him back and Coach, because we were breaking camp and we was going to go back, and because it's more of a mini camp we were in, really. I was like, I don't think I'm going back. You know, I think I'm going to tell Coach Pardee you know, I don't need to get beat up. I'm beat up enough the way it is. He said, well, let me know when you get back. He said, because Ray Mellick, wrote for the Birmingham, I guess it was Birmingham News.
Yeah.
And he said, Ray's going to do a story on you. It's okay. Sure enough, I call him, hey, I'm back. Ray Mellick calls me 2 or 3 days later. Hey, I want to do a story on you about giving up football. And Coach Perkins said, just tell him what you want to do. So sure enough, we go through the story and we kind of recap, you know, my time in Alabama. And so what do you want to do? Well, I'm going to be in some type of sales. I got a business administration degree from the university and concentration in marketing. And so Ray puts all this in the article. And the close of the article is a quote from Coach Perkins. Gary will be a success at whatever he does. I'd bet my life on it. This comes blaring out a few days later in the paper, front cover page of the sports section. Well, I get phone calls from Florence to Huntsville to Mobile to Dothan offering me jobs. And that's the kind of person Coach Perkins was, because, heck, I hadn't had anything to do with him in 5 years, you know. But he was still there willing to try to help. And but it was, I mean, that gave me my opportunity. I've been in athletics long enough to know where I don't belong. I didn't belong there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, my ball on an out route would kind of go this way. Warren's went that way. It never dropped. Cody Carlson's the same way. But those guys are out there fighting because they're trying to feed their families. You know, they got kids at home and all this. My mentality wasn't there because it was still a game to me. And that's kind of my approach. Now, I did everything I could to prepare, but I never got really nervous in a game. Mm-hmm. Because I knew I'd done everything I could to prepare, and that was really Homer's deal that he impressed on us was he would put you under more pressure in practice, so the game's fun, and it slows down. Your guys, quarterback's talking about the game slows down, so the game really slowed down for me, and now I threw several interceptions. I'll say that, but it was more of not necessarily seeing the stuff. But I was probably a little too confident in my arm that I could fit it in. So, but it was. I mean, it was. But Homer was a big deal in preparation.
Yeah.
And still, I kind of still try to carry that today. As you know, no matter what you're doing, try to prepare to be the best you can be at it.
So, were you able to get to know Warren Moon very well?
Not great, but I'll say this: he was phenomenal in the time he took with me as a rookie free agent, of trying to explain stuff, and because back then they were running the run and shoot, and I think it was Kevin Gilbride was the offensive coordinator at that time. But Warren was great. I mean, like I said, he was the NFL Man of the Year that year, was just super patient. And again, taking time to spend with me as a rookie free agent. And I'll never forget that. So
I'm gonna say that may be best NFL uniform in history. The powder blue.
Oh, absolutely.
Oilers. You're able to put that on?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is different about, because I mean, obviously you're a very good SEC quarterback, but what's different about those guys that are at that level? I mean, and you're coming through really in the era of quarterbacks. I mean, you've got obviously, Phil Simms and Jim Kelly and Joe Montana and all those guys and Moon and Marino, Elway. I mean, you can just keep going. I mean, so what makes those guys different than, a really good college quarterback?
I would say part of it is the system they're in. I think another thing is simply arm strength. I mean, you look at some of those guys, like I said, you take Warren, you take a Dan Marino, his release and the speed which he could throw a ball. I mean, because you take in high school, for example, your window to throw in is probably 4 to 5 yards. And I'm saying in relation to the DB to your receiver. So you get to college, obviously that window gets smaller. You get to the NFL, that window gets real small because it's harder and harder to get separation. So you've got to have that arm strength to fit those balls in.
But can you develop that? Is that something that's just kind of innate, God-given, or is it something that's learned, that can be learned?
I think you can strengthen it some, but I think a lot is just God-given of what you have. I think you can quicken your release some. It's funny, we're sitting here talking about this, but Joe Montana talked about there's really only, I think it was 3 times that you've got to have a strong arm. It's when you're throwing late, you're throwing somewhere you shouldn't be throwing, and it was throwing a deep ball. Because like Homer under Coach Smith, majority of what we did was based on timing. And so like his deep ball was you take 5 steps, step and throw, the ball should go 43 1/3 yards. I don't care who your receiver is. Your deep ball should go 43 1/3 yards. I mean, it was down to that degree and so you get to the NFL to that level where you start trying to fit balls into tighter, smaller windows. And you've got to have that quick release. You've got to have that stronger arm. I simply didn't have that. And I was okay admitting that. Because again, I'd been in athletics long enough to know, I don't have that. I'll never have to the point where what Warren Moon's got and some of that stuff.
Well, you look at like Tebow, and the big conversation was about his delivery. He would just drop the ball down and not it wasn't as smooth as some of those other guys like Warren Moon. But how hard is that to change that? Just fundamentally change the way you distribute the ball.
I think it's extremely hard. I mean, but now you look at a Jalen Hurts, for example. While he was in Alabama, he struggled with some accuracy. He gets with a coach, and obviously they work on footwork is a big thing. And he gets his feet right now. I think he's one of the higher paid quarterbacks in NFL, and obviously they won the Super Bowl and have a ton of success based on him playing and being very, very successful. So a lot of that can be learned, but I think the arm strength is one of those deals you have or you don't, and the release can be improved a little bit. But you start taking a guy that's 20-something years old and start trying to change how he's thrown his whole life, I think can be difficult.
Has the thought process changed over the years? And I know you're not an NFL philosopher, but I mean, the pocket passer, are we moving a little bit away from that? I mean, that obviously Hurts can hurt you with his feet. He can run the ball, but is the NFL and professional football moving away from that sort of classic pocket passer?
I think some teams are, for sure. I mean, if you look at the guy in Baltimore,
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. I mean, what an athlete! But it just adds one more dynamic that you can have in your arsenal as an offense, and I think a lot of that comes from college because of the fits that a running quarterback can create on a defense. And again, it all goes in cycles, right? And so you'll see it cycle through, and you'll have a pocket passer, And then you'll have this guy that also can run, and then defenses will figure that out. You know, because I say still today, in college, the rules favor the offense today. And I think that's one of the reasons you see a lot of the points that are scored. Linemen go a little further downfield. We can read this longer. We can do that. So a lot of your traditional things, you know, you can't touch them as far downfield as you used to could. So a lot of those things favors the offense. But again, defenses will catch up. They'll figure it out. And so that's the reason it goes in cycles. And so, yeah, you'll have a drop back guy, then you'll have a running guy, and it'll go back and forth. But again, based on the philosophy of that team, because, I mean, and you look at the NFL, I think the NFL protects quarterbacks. Because, again, that's your highest paid guy. That's your highest paid employees. And they want them on the field.
We could be here all night, but because we've got a long way to go after your playing career that we can cover. But I do want you to talk about your working career. I'd love to know more about your family. You know, what's family life like with you? And then you've had some challenges too. I mean, you had throat cancer in 2018, so there have been some challenges along the way in your post football life.
Life for Gary Hollingsworth's been good. I'll say that. I basically worked for the same company for the last 32 years. Clayton Homes. Was Cavalier Homes, got bought out by Clayton Homes, and so couldn't say more about that. Being happy. Been married to my wife, Sharon, for 33 years. We have 2 great children. We've got a son that's he's a chemical engineer, lives in Huntsville. Got a 3-month-old grandbaby, which is our first. So excited about that.
What's
obviously.
that like?
That's so much fun. But it's great. Then we've got a daughter, Callie. She's 26, so she's a pharmacist and works there in Birmingham at UAB. And so for Gary, it's been great. And that's what I try to tell people. 2018. I have a knot comes up in my neck, and it was there for probably a couple weeks. I'm shaving, find it, and so I don't say anything to my wife for a few weeks. I'm like, hey, feel that. And how long's it been there? Well, probably a couple weeks, and we have that conversation. Were you going to the doctor? Nah, I mean, it'll go away. Well, she schedules me an appointment with our general practitioner.
Were you doctor averse at this point?
Yeah, kind of.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
Okay.
And so go in and see our general practitioner, and he's like, it's probably a saliva gland infected. We'll treat it with antibiotics. If it doesn't go away, then I'll get you to ENT or something. We'll figure out what it is. So I go through every many rounds of antibiotics it was, and it didn't go away. He scheduled me to see Dr. Sheldon Black from St. Vincent's there. And so we go in. He feels of it, looks at me. I'm 50 at the time, and so he's not taking a blood sample. He's not done anything. So he's like, "You've been sick lately? No. You smoke? No. Chew tobacco? No. So,
and never did.
No. So,
Okay.
So he is like, "Is this your first cancer?" I mean, I just met the man a few minutes ago, and my wife's like, "Nice to meet you too."
Yeah.
He said, my belief is white male, mass in the neck, your age, because he and I were the same age. He said, it's cancer proven differently. He said, so we're going to go at warp speed, and we're fixing to figure out what it was. That's a Wednesday morning. Friday afternoon, I'm at St. Vincent's in Birmingham, get a biopsy and a CT scan. So his assistant calls me Monday morning and says, Dr. Black would like to see you in his office this afternoon. So the smart aleck I am, I'm like, well, I'm assuming it's not to tell me that I don't have cancer. And I kind of laughed. She didn't. So I called my wife, like, hey, we need to go to Birmingham. And sure enough, we get down there, and he's like, well, it is cancer. And at the time, the scan, he said, it's in your tongue and several of your lymph nodes. Well, I'd not been exposed to a lot of cancer in my family growing up and stuff. But I'd always heard, hey, if it ever got in your lymph nodes, you're done. Yeah. And so I start panicking a little bit and freaking out. And he's like, so this is Monday. He said, I want to do a MRI on you. And let's see if it's contained to there. So now your mind starts going crazy. Well, is it throughout my body? Well, I'm 50 years old. And so both our kids were in summer school class at the time. So I'm like, we're not saying nothing to them. Do we know what it is? So we go down and do the MRI Grandview. And he calls, he's like, hey, great news. It's not in your tongue, it's in your left tonsil. And so we'd already made the determination, hey, if it's cancer, we're going to cut it out. I mean, you can do one or two
things. Are you thinking that they may cut my tongue?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's going through your head.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so we'd already made a determination, hey, we're going to cut it out, because you can really approach it two different ways. You can treat it first. And if the radiation and chemo takes care of it, you don't have to go through the surgery, because surgery for a 50-year-old taking your tonsils out is a pretty difficult surgery. I said, well, I want it out. I don't want it to be any longer than it has to be. So I go in. I'm in the following Tuesday. So literally 8 days from the time I get told it's cancer, I'm in the operating room having it cut out. So fast forward, start healing up, and they want to do radiation and chemo. And I'm like, well, I'd like to get a second opinion. And I had several friends that had been to MD Anderson. And so Dr. Black was great. He's like, I think that'd be a great idea. Yeah, go. And so he helped me get there. And so I'd text him on a Monday morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, that afternoon, MD Anderson's calling me. And so I'm on a plane Wednesday morning, flying out there to meet with those guys. I met with them for 2 or 3 days. I ended up spending 6.5 weeks in MD Anderson, took 33 rounds of radiation and 6 rounds of chemo in 6.5 weeks. And knock on wood, I've been cancer free since.
You rang the bell, right?
Yeah, rang the bell. So I fly out there once a year, and I do tests and do my scans once a year. And because he's like, once you get past 5 years, the odds of it coming back are very, very, very small. And it was great out there, because Dr. Myers, who was my head guy out there, he's like, something besides this cancer will keep you from walking your daughter down the aisle. So, again, life's been good for Gary Hollingsworth.
Yeah. What have you learned from that situation?
Small things don't matter. I mean, a bunch of things that we think are important or whatever, they don't matter. We do this or we do that, or so-and-so says this or that. It don't matter. Mm-hmm. And so it really got me back. I'm going to say that, seems like God does things to get you back, pull you back in. That was me.
Yeah.
Got a lot closer to my family, and, spending time with them, and it just kind of shows you things that are important, and it kind of gets you to prioritize things again. So.
And that's what your coaches are preparing you for at Alabama. Not that they can. I mean, but that adversity that you're going to face in the future, which is a bigger deal. When you're saying that, I was sitting there thinking like, okay, you're back in Houston. I mean, and this is much more adversity than you had when you were a Houston Oilers football player. But that's why I believe in athletics. As our coaches are trying to prepare us for life. The things that come that are a bigger deal than playing at Walker College for Coach Clem or playing for.
Well, to me, I guess that's what has me disappointed today, and I don't want to get on my soapbox too much. But in the world of transfer portal and NIL and all that, I think it teaches terrible life lessons to kids, to athletes. Because guess what? Things aren't going your way. You're not playing. Man, yeah. When I first got to Alabama, I was 6th on the depth chart. I was behind 5 All-Americans.
Yeah.
Well, in today's deal, we probably never would have went there to start with, because there's too many people ahead of me. But I wanted to go to the University of Alabama. It meant something to me for me to go to school there. And my fear is now, well, guess what? I'm a 4 or 5 star guy. Plug in any position you want to. Well, if I'm not playing right when I first get there, well, I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go somewhere that's easier. I'm going to go somewhere they're going to pay me more money.
Right.
And I think that teaches terrible life lessons. So you get on that job, well, it's not going the way you want to.
Yeah.
So you quit?
I'm gone, yeah. I mean,
you sit there and get into a marriage. Well, it's not going good. What are you going to quit?
Yeah. That's what society is teaching us right now.
And to me, that's what we're teaching in sports right now. And I think that's terrible life lessons. And to me, that's one of the reasons I'm pulling for Ty so hard, because he stayed. He's persevered. He sat behind some really, really good quarterbacks, right? But I think it meant something to him to play for the University of Alabama. And to me, that was, going back to when I played. Now, it's been a few days ago. But the guys there, they wanted to play for the University of Alabama. You weren't there for the money. You weren't there for any of the things except Chris Robinette was my roommate. Man, he grew up an Alabama fan. And it meant something for him to run out of that tunnel for the University of Alabama. And because, again, I mean, he'd sit there and cry. I mean, you sit there and, he'd get injured or whatever. I mean, it was hard because it meant that much. Well, I think when you start nationally recruiting, and again, it's all national now. Everybody's that way. Back in the day, Tennessee was really the first school that started really recruiting nationally. And they were getting track guys out of California to come and play, but we were still primarily, our team was made up of guys from Alabama and Mississippi and Tennessee, really. But all that's changed now. I mean, it's more of a national recruiting deal, and so my fear is it doesn't mean as much for a guy to play for an Alabama, for an Auburn, for a Tennessee, or whoever.
But there's something to be said about a guy that stays. And I mean, I go back to let's say that your '89 team is going to have a reunion. I mean, and all those guys stayed. And you if you have a reunion and you walk out at Bryant Denny Stadium, and the '89 Alabama team, you walk out there and every single person stayed at Alabama. Now, if you have that same dynamic, you may have 7, 8 guys that go transfer. So what are they going to do in 20 years when the, 2020, team walks out and 3 or 4 of the guys have transferred to some other school? And so there's something to be said about staying with the program. And for me, it's a sense of loyalty. Like, are you loyal to the guys beside you? Or are you just in it for yourself? I mean, it's ruining our sport. I mean, I've said it over and over and over, and I'm going to get on my soapbox right now, but I mean, it is ruining our sport.
I agree.
And if something doesn't change quickly, I really, truly believe that people are going to lose interest. And I've been an Alabama fan my whole life. I've been a sports fan my whole life, but it's got to be fixed.
Well, I mean, it hadn't been that many years ago. You could sit there and see a guy come in as a freshman. You could see him grow. Then he becomes a junior and a senior, and he's playing and he's starting. And so you've watched that guy mature. You've watched him get bigger, stronger, faster. And there's something to that.
Maybe it makes you better, that you may have to work hard.
Well, I used to tell my son, you're going to compete for something for the rest of your life. Whether if it's a girlfriend, a wife, a job, a sale, whatever it is, you're going to compete for something for the rest of your life. And I think that's what sports teaches. And if somebody wants to shy away or wants you to guarantee them a starting job out of high school or guarantee them X amount of money, they've never played it down in college, and you've got to pay me this for me to come to your school, well, I just seen you go somewhere else. Because if you're scared of competition, we don't need you. And if you want something guaranteed, because again, that's not reality in life to me.
Right.
And so these guys, hey, I'll just take my toys and go somewhere else. Again, I just think it's terrible life lessons.
I agree. Well, man, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. So good to see
Appreciate
you.
the invite.
And man, I wish you the very best of luck, and I hope you just continue to have great success in your life. So appreciate you coming on.
All right, thank you.
All right, man.